Just just give me a minute, guys. I'll start. YouTube link if you join. Yeah, I guess we're live. Just give me a minute. It will be fine. I should. Yeah, I'll start in a minute. Let me just see if everything's in order. Things are okay. Yeah, I was planning I will give some demo in Webpack today to start with. Let me just go share the screen and uh, share the screen. Just share. I hope you guys can see my screen. Let me know if you're not able to. Okay, so let me just start. It shouldn't ask for password and it should. You should be signed in though. If you are not signed in, so it wouldn't let you that. Oh. There's a passcode for sure, but I'm not sure whether that's required.
Yeah, I don't think they're like you need a password. You just need to be signed in.
Yes, I think that should be enough. Yeah, signed in is required. Otherwise, I might end up with somebody spamming. So, yeah, let me know if you're not able to join. Cool. Then, let me start with. I'm going to try. Okay, I wanted to start with something very simple. So I just create a webpack and webpack 5. I'll just put it demo cd. You're able to read what I'm trying to do, right?
Yeah, now it's fine. It was a bit small before this.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if you're not able to. I'll start with our index file. I think that should be fine. I'll just open this thing. Yeah, I think it should have index like this. It's creating document. Fine. I'll just start with the hello world. I'll start the server so that I'll just what's it called? Plan. Just using some random HTTP server as an npm model to start. It should be at 8080. Okay, so we have a hello world application. So to add, let's add some some other files and stuff. So css slash main dot css. Main dot css will be the file. Now, so let's create a JS file also. JS slash main dot JS. Oh, why is it creating this? And JS. Okay, fine. Let's import them too. Just showing a link. The reason I'm doing like this, I just want it to be as simple as possible without adding any React or anything. Href should be slash uh, sidechain.css, and we'll add a script here. SRC would be slash main. Yes, and then that should refresh in the network tab. We should be seeing slash main and if no, that's not good. So these files are loading. So what we'll do is I will start with something very small. I'll just add a button over here, and let's say I create click me, just a button, and hello world. I'll just give an ID called click me, and in the main.js we can do a document. So I need to get the element. Let's say where my button get element by ID. Click me out. This would be the button, and what I want to do is add event listener to that. So my button dot add event listener. I think I should have made this things, but okay. And what we're going to do is just see if everything is working. I load hello. So this should probably work. So let me just put in a different window and over here. Okay, so if I refresh, I should see a button. And click me isn't working. Is it ID wrong? Yes, ID. Uh, and yeah, it seems to work. Yeah. Right. Was it cat? Wasn't it? Further. Range of script response.
You
Okay.
don't need a pound symbol to select the ID, right?
No, the ID no. This is just ID, right? ID is equal to me, and this is should no. Probably just do something. Just log this thing. Hmm. And check script. Oh, damn it. Script tag is not ending. Uh, yeah. Yeah, button loaded, right? So click should work. Cool. Just tagged intent, so that's not a problem. Okay, fine. So this is a basic application, then nothing. So what I want to do is, let's say in ideal, to make it complicated in this, I'd say button.js, I create a different file for getting the button. I'll just move this button to my other JS file. And since it is, I could define like this, it would declare globally to make it very specific. I'm just declaring my dot button is this, and from here I'm just going to say window dot button is this. Now since my main.js is loading, it requires my button.js to also be loaded, right? So what I will do is, before loading main.js, I'll load button.js also, because this is now required for my page to work. So if I look into network, I should have button.js and then main.js. If I click, still works. So the problem would be, let's say if I move this thing down, now if I refresh, this should break. Now because the problem is I do not know what my dot button is. This is, I'm just creating a problem here. Ideally your problem would be the managing dependency and figuring out which JS files require what, right? And this could be problem. So let's do one more thing. Let's add one more file. I'll add this thing as ID equal to, let's say, title, and in the main.css, let me just add color to my h1 saying color blue. Oh, sorry, I need blue. Okay, I'll add a color of blue and in my method is fine. And I'll add one more file. Let's say title.js, and I'll go and do the same thing. But instead of button, I'll just say title and my button instead of saying fine. That should be okay. So not what I will do instead of just saying alert, I'll just say window dot title dot style dot color is equal to, let me see, if this is, I'll just make a toggle function. So if this is equal to, let's say blue, then I will make it red. Otherwise, I'll just switch it back to blue. So just toggling a function. Oh wait, what it is? It shouldn't. It should equal the title. Okay, fine. So now we have a blue button. If I click, nothing is happening. There's nothing happening. Yeah. Okay. When I click, it toggles. Cool. So that's fine. So again, let's add button also some styles. The reason I'm doing it, this is something you generally do. I just wanted to show some hierarchy problems and stuff. So let's do one thing. Let's here for not just for H1, I'll add it for button also. This is, let's assume this is our default styles. Color as blue, and that should fine. In button, what will add styles for button? Let's say adding, let's say 8 pixel, 16 pixel. Font weight has bold. What what else requires? Border. I don't know. Yeah. And font size will improve, increase it to, let's say, 16 pixel. One thing, this is one thing which is going to be changing. I'll pick some color which says I'm changing color. I will check, let's say black, and we'll do background color as something. Yeah, so which we know this style is getting applied. So what should we do? Text. Okay, fine. So this is the styles we have. So now let's import the styles in the HTML itself. So this is, so if you want to, the order in which you import matters in CSS also, because in the latest one will take the priority. So ideally our color of blue should get replaced with color of black, right? So this is how our application works. So if I just to show here, you see I have a new button, and when I click on it, color changes. Great. And if to show the problem, now if I move the order up, all right, move the order up, and if I refresh it over here, now you see the button is blue, the text in the button is blue. This is again something which we do not want. Okay, so now you might see a problem now that the order in which we are importing things is important, right? And that is the concern, right? So we'll have to import button.js, and also we need to import title.js also, right? And these are the files which we want to import. And if I do, yeah, yeah, these okay. Now, to this is where we need Webpack. One reason is to maintain this array or this dependency graph, right? If things are going from here and there, somebody has to maintain this order of execution. Let's say you have more files, and more files are dependent on each other, then it will be difficult for you to figure out which one wants what. That's one thing. And because of we are doing this, since Webpack knows these things, you would have heard things like Babel and other things working along with that to provide you some additional thing. So let me to start with Webpack. I'll just initialize an empty app. There's nothing, and let me just add Webpack as the dependency. It would be a dependency for us. So actually, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, hopefully it gets added. Yeah. Cool. So here we will say Webpack, uh, let's say build. We'll just talk about how to build things. Dev server and things are generally just addition on Webpack, so it shouldn't be difficult to figure it out. Okay, so I'll just also open
Yeah,
Webpack's.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it would be great if you can show me like how can we like when we use create React app, we automatically get the files from assets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying out Webpack and I didn't know how to do that, so it will really help if you can like.
Yeah, sure. So I'll
Yeah,
just
thank
show you how to link these things, and if it still doesn't answer your question, please feel to ask again. Okay, I'll show how
okay,
these
okay,
things it's part of your
okay,
assets.
okay. Thanks.
Uh, sure. Okay, so I'll just open Webpack's docs too, so that this is so that you could follow along later if you want to see. So basically, Webpack has four concepts to start with. So one is we'll see what these things are. Four major things we need to worry about. I'll just zoom it in if you're not able to see. Entry and output. This is basically you tell me how many entries of your applications are. If you have multiple entry points, we'll start with one, and how many outputs you want to create. A number of one entry point can have multiple outputs based on environment and some variables. You can create multiple ones. And loaders and plugins are things which are the basic things which makes your Webpack work, right? So I'll create. So by default, Webpack from fourth version, you don't need any config to work, but we'll add some config so that we understand what's going on. So this is way too much. The bare minimum is input and output, so we'll add that. And the file name should be webpack.config.js. So if you have a root file called webpack.config.js, where your package.json is, Webpack would automatically find this config and use it for itself. You don't have, if it's not there, you'll have to pass it as path. That should, so we'll just use this. Entry would be our main.js. This is where our usually it's just dot slash say slash main.js. Let it create a folder in dist and output we'll call it bundle.js. Bundle.js. Hopefully this should be enough for us to start with. It is going not to do anything. So let's change a couple of things here. So in our main.js now we can import uh, let's say what is it called, my button from button, and I also want to import title from title. However, we are not exporting these two, so things I will just remove these window things. Basically, because of this now they are using this thing, fine. We'll go to title. Instead of directly doing this, we'll just say x, just say const title. I'll just do an export default here. Export default title. This could be your component or anything for that matter. And we'll do the same with button. We'll say const of window is equal to button. We'll say const my button is equal to this, and we'll export my button is equal to export default my button. Definitely, I'll spell it wrong. So just to we are just importing these things and title. We're not changing anything in HTML, so you won't see anything. But let's see if our Webpack works. So I'll just say yarn build. This is our. You could use npm also in this. So it says you are using Webpack CLI. Do you want to add as dependency? You'll just add it. So it runs. This is a CLI tool which requires so that you can run it in this thing. It says we are not setting the mode. That's fine. We'll set it up. So in the dist, now you see you have bundle file which has const click me, and also you will see it has uglified a bit, title, this thing and stuff. By default, it takes configuration as production. We'll also just for sake of so the error goes away, we just say production. In an actual application, you would be basing this on your start. If it's a yarn start or dev server, you want to have this as development. I'll just run it again just to show there wouldn't be any difference if I do this. It just error would not be there now. We can go back to our build dist bundle. It's still the same. So the difference would be if you are using it for something else, it could be development. Then if you run, build. This is you don't really use it for used along with dev server. So now you see we'll have a lot of other code which will allow you to do HMR and a lot of other things, and not comments are there and those kind of things. So you could see how Webpack is importing JS and how it's creating those things and stuff. In actual production code, you won't need those things. So additional dependency that Webpack adds. So we won't be talking much about development, but there is nothing much anyways. So we'll go over to the production one. So yeah, this should work now. So we'll create a production build and we'll go to our index HTML. Now we'll say, hey, you don't really have to build all these things. All you need to do is take the bundle file and it will build there. So just take this. These are things if you do in CR, if you go and do yarn build, you would see a single or file which says open runtime JS or runtime main JS, and everything else would be part of that. That's the same thing here. We are just taking this and we're taking the bundle just over here. So now we are not importing these things directly. We're just taking the bundle. And if we go to our application, refresh it, fortunately, everything else should work. Yeah, it's okay. Right. I think the first one is the style isn't. Let's fix that. Config that doesn't work. Button. The problem is by default there is nothing in style, so the color would be null. I'm just this is the inline property. I'm not adding a property inside this thing. So I'll just check for red, then I'll assign for blue, and then red. Because our default is blue, this should feel that the first click it works. Otherwise, the first click doesn't work. Cool. And also we can show in our network. We can see now we have a bundle JS of 512 by its limit. Cool. So this is just input and output. We'll see where Babel comes in picture. Right? This is one of the what is the difference between Babel and Webpack? People generally confuse. So Webpack just takes input and loads the file, and other tools like Babel and stuff is basically what you use for transpiling the code to the version of your target browser. So let's say I go to Babel loader. I'll just search for Babel loader. It should give me the dependencies required. So you would need Babel loader. That's the tool which I'm going to use. Core is all the core utilities. Babel preset env helps you in targeting which browser or what versions of things you want to target. The default targets, or if you want to go with, you want to target IE11, or you want to target a specific version of something browser. All those things you could do based on I could say based on the browser INV. I'll just table preset env. So is could give you the configurations how you can configure. So you could say 0.2% not dead, or you could say specify the version of the browsers you want. These there's a database of things you just pulled locally into your browser, which lets Babel know which one to pick up. So we'll use this Babel loader and these things to demonstrate how loaders and things work, and also will give you an idea how we generally your Babel also works, right? So we'll add this as our dev dependency. And Babel loader residues. Uh, these document links, I think I will share in the channel so that you can use later. Yeah, this is a rule module which you want. So loaders are generally this is loaders, and the config for loaders is called module. And let me just copy this here in the config. This should would go in our config here. So we just want anything that ends with JS. We are excluding node models. We do not want to transpile anything what is already there in Weaver node models. You're using this loader. These are the options, and this is a preset which this particular loader takes. This preset would these options would differ from your loader to loader. It's not universal to all loaders. It's just option for this thing. So we are saying a default. Nothing do don't do anything much. And yeah, so actually by this you wouldn't really see much difference because we have not written much of code which would say only thing it shouldn't break right now. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it's not doing anything much because we have not asked our model to do anything more. We're just saying whatever the default is.
Yeah,
Is
so can we give our git ignore file instead of that models on line number on 9 on exclude?
exclude is a regex. It doesn't. I don't think exclude takes file path. Let
Okay,
me just. Oh yeah, this has to be a regex.
okay,
So usually, I think your yeah, whatever this has to. I think as far as I remember, the exclude has to be regex. We can just confirm that.
all right,
Yeah. If you yeah, good. So this is fine. So if you go to our build file now, actually you wouldn't see much difference. It still looks quite similar. So show a difference. What we can do. This would depends on number of if you are using async await or promises and stuff. This would change. Right now we are not doing anything. That's why you're not seeing any difference. So let me just call. What is it called? Uh, yeah, we will use greater than 25% of traffic and not dead. So this is the configuration we are going for. This is one of the very conservative one. It's not very aggressive. This one, uh, if I build with this, now you should see some difference in our code which is generated from Bala. It's my system. It's taking. It shouldn't take this much time. But yeah, good. Now if you go to the bundle, one okay. See, it's taking the config. Modules loader. Yeah, let me just build that. Completed file. I think it should have shown some differences. Not sure. Let me just go and see the bundle. It doesn't. Back. Something probably went wrong. You know what is there? Yeah, the regex is fine, right? Let me just check. No, the regex seems to be wrong. Let me just try to get it. It has created the value list. Let me just check what is the. Let me know if I'm doing anything wrong in the config. Yeah, seems to be fine to me. Let me just the config target do this. Fine. This should have backslash dot. Yeah, using whatever we got. Right. Exclude more modules. Module rules test. Okay. We will just run it again. I'm not sure why this isn't. And we're trying to do things online. So, um, ideally, what I'm looking for is this should not have const and probably yeah. Okay, so this is getting transformed, right? We are using an arrow function, right? Let me see. We are using arrow function. This is getting transformed, and
Probably Const has got wide browser support now.
yeah, probably that. Let me see. Okay, let's try with IE10. I thought const wouldn't be there. It was IE10 or I11? What is? I just want to. Yeah, probably that. I10, I think I11 should be there. I'm not sure I11, 10, and requires additional support. I thought, uh, let me see. Wait. If this doesn't work, then probably a configuration is wrong. Something is wrong with the config. Let's go with the bundle. No, there's something wrong with the bundle generation. And it's very high. There's nothing much happening. The baby loader should be there. and configures rules. This is a configuration I tried just before giving this demo. I thought let's give it a try. And this wouldn't work. So this is 2.5%. And there's something wrong with the config. I guess what it has is notice. Okay, I'll see. Let's add something more and see if things are rest of things are working. And if it still doesn't work, I'll not pick it up. Cool. Let me add another loader to just let's try adding a CSS loader and see if that's working. If then we can come back to this. CSS loader. This is probably back. Yeah, this is the rules test. I'll just copy style loader on this. Test should agree. Let's see if this works. Test. So we want to add style loader and CSS loader. We added it here, right? I think I should try. Show that. Yeah, and style loader. And what we want to do now is go to our button thing. We'll just import the button CSS. Include what is it called? Forward slash button slash CSS slash button dot CSS. Yes. So okay. So what we are doing here is any file which ends with CSS. Okay. Make it case sensitive. I don't think that should matter. With ends with CSS, we want to load style. So what CSS loader does is takes each and every file. What style loader does is injects into the JS part. So we might not want it in our production builds later, but we'll just let me just try it out if this works. And there's probably some configuration wrong with our Babel one. Let me check. Hopefully this works. Okay, let's see our bundle. Okay, so in this bundle now we are seeing this colors and stuff, right? Yeah, we have CSS properties and we have done more things. So if you go to our index HTML right now, and if I remove these two, I'll just comment it out. So I'll just comment these things out, and if I go to our app and refresh, yeah, now you saw some flash of CSS and stuff. That's because it's loading through our JavaScript. So now you see our JavaScript. Earlier it was around 500 bytes. Now it has gone to 4 KB because we are loading styles. So this is useful when you're doing your local development, but might get into extra lot of additional CSS and stuff might get JS might be loaded and your JS might be heavy to add. So to avoid that, there is something called, that's when we can use plugins for this, where you're loading each CSS and extracting into a new file and completing. So there's something called mini CSS plugin. Mini CSS extract plugin. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me try it out. This is going for quite long. I didn't expect this to go this long. Cool. We want to add this as a dependency. That should be easy to do. That's right. Plugin. What we want to do is just import it. Uh, configuration. So I told you right, this style loader is to inject into the CSS. So this is how loaders work. So the order in which we give the inverse order it works. So first CSS loader transfers each CSS, loads this CSS, and style loader was injected into our JS. Now instead of using style loader, we can use the css.loader, and we can add a plugin to that. As much as not, we just need to say, what is it called? We just say plugins is equal to value instance. So after modules, we just go plugins is equal to new modules. Okay, now this should create a file for us. The by default is whatever the file name is, it will create a CSS file of that name. So we'll just create a build, and let me see. Yeah, module. Yeah, we have a CSS button. So if you go here, now we have main.css. That's where our it starts, and now we have this files also. So we only imported mains, only button styles. So we will go to our main, and we'll import our we'll call it main.css also, which we forgot to import before. So if I import this also, if you build, uh, now we should be seeing two files being imported, and both of them should be part of our main CSS. Now this is our, so order is preserved, right? The way your GS gets imported, the CSS also get imported that order now. Yeah. So now if we in the index file, uh, uh, yeah, we'll enable. We don't need these two, but we'll just keep one of them. Instead of main.css.main.js, it should be from dist.main.css, and this is not required now. So now if I save and go to our application, it should still work. Hopefully things what we have done. Yeah, cool. It should works. So that's basically it. I'm still concerned why our variable config didn't work. I mean, this should ideally have worked. Research loader. I'll see. Yeah, this mostly what basic intro of Webpack is. Any doubts or anything in specific? If I missed anything, let me know. Hopefully. Okay, let me just see why our config didn't work. It's not throwing an error. That's the worst part. Okay. Any other questions or anything? Let me check Discord. If anything is there. Cool. Let me know if you have any questions other than this. Can answer them.
Yeah,
Just
if it's possible, can you show how to import files?
okay. Import files. Okay. So there is something called copy plugin. Okay. So this is basic. So I'm assuming your files are you do not want to do anything with your Webpack, or do you want to transform or do anything with the Webpack? What's the idea for you to do? What kind of files are you looking for? What are these files?
Yeah.
Are they JSS, CSS file, or there's images? What is this?
Yeah, just images.
Images. So are you going to import these images, or you just want to copy?
I'm I'm gonna do something like img, and then on its source I'm gonna say like slash assets slash x dot png,
Okay, so you want to just import
like we used to do
images,
with
right?
when yeah,
So you want to import, you will to import images.
yeah,
So
directly on src without importing on js.
you don't want to import on JS. Okay, then you're just going to, so your file,
Yeah, I want to import it directly on. Yeah.
okay, okay, fine. So in that case, so you are not, your JS is not going to do anything. So you want to do copy plugin, okay? And so let me show you in that sense. So if you're not going to import in your JS, so what you want to do is add this thing in your copy plugin. And what your copy plugin would do is you will tell, hey, what are files are here, put it into your dist folder. Let's do that right now. Let me create a folder called let's I'd say let me create fold assets and image here I got let me can you just give me a link for image which I can download while I just do this part?
Yeah, you can do with any images you want.
Yeah, any okay. I'll just copy
So the
this.
concept behind is we will be copying our folder to our dist,
Yeah,
right?
concept is you will be copying your dist. Yeah, so wherever you want to the public folder. So assume this dist, right? This is which gets deployed. This could be your public or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
this is the folder which is going to get deployed. And what you're going to do is you copy the files which you want to be accessible here, put it over here, and the index
yeah.
wherever you're going to access, right? Let's say I'm going to access over here, and let's say the image is going to be image src. This src should be your public path src. This src won't be the import what you're going to do. This would be, let's say you're hosting it at root, you can say root slash assets slash something, or if you're going to put in some other cdn, then it should be https dot uh,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
s-
yeah, yeah.
s-
I got it. Yeah.
cdn whatever it is, because now this is not part of your build. That's why, but this cdn build should expose this whatever is in the public.
So when I do back forward slash assets, it will point to my dist directory, right? Like because we
Forward slash
copied it.
assets, yeah, that's yeah. Right now, I'm not pointing anything. My whatever right now, my dist is where my serving is happening. But in your
Yeah.
case, if you're creating a proper build, this entire build, right? This probably this entire public what you're going to expose in your server. So from the public folder, wherever the thing is, the root or the relative location of your assets. So if I'm copying public, insert public, if I'm copying assets, then it would be slash assets based on whatever is the relative directory from the public,
Okay.
right? This is what, assuming public is what you're going to deploy.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah, makes sense.
awesome. Anything else? I'm
Um.
skipping.
Yeah. Another question is well, I'm really having trouble with working with
Mhm.
SAS on a React applications. Like for
Okay.
example, I have a SAS inside of a module, right? And when I try to import it from a global SaaS, then will I have some features like tree shaking or something on a
Tree
React application?
shaking wouldn't be so problem with tree shaking in that sense is, so you might be importing something, let's say like this, right?
Yeah.
Right? These imports are called with side effects. Okay, these import have side effects. Now the problem is, let's say I'm not. Okay, I'll show you another thing. Let's say I'm
So
not
when you're
in.
saying side effects, do you mean like extra things that I don't need?
No, no, no. I'll
All
demonstrate
right.
this thing to you. So let's say I'm not using button. I'm just commenting on the button part. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And what I will do is I'll create the build again. So what I expect now is I don't expect my title, so the button, any code inside the button to be part of my build, right? Because I'm not importing. I'm importing button, right? Sorry, I should be importing button. Yeah. So I should be importing the button, but should not be using it. Otherwise it won't go. So,
Yeah, when I import like that, I
yeah,
get lots of CSS, unused CSS on a file.
yeah. That's what I wanted to show you. Now the problem
All
with
right.
now is, so even though my button is imported, if I go to my test and I go to the bundle, I am not. So you would see my I do not have any code related to button here. Okay,
Yeah,
but in my CSS, my button is there. Okay. The reason this is happening is what Webpack does is when you say, hey, I need to import something, these are the imports which has to be done. It creates a graph for these imports. Okay. Now it
yeah,
says button is not used. It will take down button. It will not use button. The problem with side effects is now this CSS file, right? It's doing something which is not directly. Webpack doesn't know what's happening with this file. Assume like
yeah,
that. Right? Webpack has no clue what the CSS file is. You're just in the enable your in the configure saying if you find a CSS file, just put it in this loader. Doesn't matter whether you're
yeah,
using it or not. So that's a problem. You wouldn't be able to tree shake if you're doing imports like this. So there are ways to overcome this. You could use CSS modules
yeah.
where you say uh, CSS something like that, and you do
Import
CSS
CSS dot. Yeah.
the class name and stuff. That works because now there's a way for Webpack to know whether you're using it or not.
Okay. But sometimes I have trouble. Like when I use Bootstrap,
Mm-hmm.
I had to import like that on your line number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
there is there any way that I can make it more like performant? Like
You're the
it is a huge.
only. No, you wouldn't be able to reshape the code itself. But what you could do is, let's say this entire thing was in page one. Let's say you're not this entire style was in page one. You could dynamically import page one. You can do a chunk. What is that? Dynamic import for
Yeah.
page one, and entire page one CSS will be different, but you will still
Okay.
end up loading lot of unwanted CSS if you're
All
doing
right.
like
All
this.
right. So I also have another question relating to module.sass files, module sass.
Okay.
So let's say your main.css and your button.css are modules, right? So if I import another module, I mean like a mixin, like a global mixin file. So what
Okay.
happens then? Like, will it use all of the codes in the mixins, or it will just import the things that I used in my module?
In the CSS you are saying, right? You will
Yeah.
import the mixins, the CS, it's a CSS mixins, right?
No, no, no. I'm talking about SAS mixins. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, basically, yeah, SAS mixins, right?
yeah,
So you will be importing in your SAS files, I'm assuming. Then
yeah.
are you? Yeah. Then if you're one of even one of it is used, then entire mixin would be used.
Okay, so if I use the same mixins on my main.css and my button.css, then what happens? Like, will it be able
Yeah,
to know that?
yeah. So you're still pointing to the same file, right? So the thing is, even if let's say I use this CSS twice. That's your thing, right? If I'm using it twice.
Yeah, twice on a different
Yeah.
module
So I'm
files. Yeah,
using main file twice. I'm using it here and I'm using it here.
yeah.
So this should work once because Webpack knows this file exists at one place. I told right. It creates a dependency graph saying this file requires this. So it knows that main CSS is already
Oh,
being imported. So I don't have to import main CSS again.
so it doesn't really matter if I import mixins like that. Then, if
No,
I have imported
if you use it
different files,
once,
then
yeah, if
yeah.
you use it once, you can use it 10 times. It doesn't matter because the dependency is going to be one. So if you go to our main CSS, you would see like of course only once because main CSS even though it was loaded twice, you
Uh,
see the output only once.
yeah. So we can do some like module resolve, or what do we call it? Like module resolution in JavaScript file. Can we do module resolution in SAS imports?
SAS doesn't understand whether it's been used or not. That's the biggest problem.
So is there any webpack config that we can use to resolve the modules then?
Not something that I'm aware of that you would be able to tree shake with SAS. The at most you could go with is basically tree shaking based on this component itself. But again, the problem is if you're doing side imports with side effects, you'd still be pushing a lot of CSS which is not required.
All right. The last thing I did with this kind of import, like I checked the performance coverage,
Hmm.
and then I preloaded some stuff. And then what happened was it got really messy. So I was wondering about if I could like optimize the import. So the thing is, we cannot really optimize that, right?
You could optimize based on pages. So what you could best do is create uh, based on every page. You can create different CSS. So your home page is not loading the page of entire what do you say app.
All right, all right. So one last question. It's about testing. Like,
Mhm.
let's say I have a page with a
Mhm.
component.
Okay.
So what should I test first, the component or the page or both?
Uh, I would say test the page. If you're testing the page, would indirectly mean you're testing the components, right? You're using
Yeah.
those components. So yeah, test the page. It will give you more confidence. Would it is basically your uh, what do you say?
Yeah, it will give me more confidence about like the
Yes.
component is working. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you
So
get
yeah.
integration
So
testing kind
if
of thing.
that's the case, then I won't have any test on my component.
Component so what I generally say is, let's say so if you're talking about a component, then you're mocking a lot of things that component requires, right? The problem with
Yeah.
that approach is you would have, so every time you mock something, consider that as a way to reduce your confidence, because though if it's easy for you, but it will reduce the
Yeah. Yeah.
confidence. So in that case, but there are cases where it's very difficult to create each and every kind of cases in the page. So in that case, you can test the all the
So
possible edge cases in your component if that's really really required. Let's say it's a very business critical function or something. Let's say it's a utility function. It's a very critical. You can test that function individually rather
okay.
than and test the and in the integration test you're testing only the critical parts.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
So that has to be able to transfer the code based on my browser or the transfer lower browser. Basically, how does behavior handle it? So in yeah, so that's the demo I was trying to show. So the thing is, when you're creating the config, you tell what is your target. So based on the target, Babel just creates the load. It's not dynamic to each and every browser. So the package Babel preset env has the uh, configuration which tells it that which browser supports what features, and Babel just transfers based on that. So you're just giving the configuration upfront. Hopefully that answers your question. No, yeah, it doesn't. It's not magic. For some reason, this is going wrong. I'm still stuck with that. I'm not able to see if there's some typo or something. No, rules test. Yeah, no, I don't see. Yeah, any other questions? Anyone? Okay, then I'll just spend a couple of minutes in figuring out what's going wrong. Otherwise, if nobody has questions, you can wrap it up in 5 10 minutes. So, rules. This is the rule which you copy. Rules, copy. Yes. So, what is this? I put a target as high level. So, yeah, hopefully, I didn't do anything, so I'm not hopeful that it would work. But still just give it a try. No, still doesn't work. Um, Something is really off here.
The only problem you're facing right now is like the const is not getting transferred
The
to
yeah, the
something.
preset is not taking. So I not sure, very sure why the preset is not working. The ideally the preset should tell Babel saying, hey, you're supposed to load these things, and it's not doing that. That's a problem. That's bad. I could have done what Babel does. Thing is, I was trying just before the call, and it worked perfectly well. I just used this. This is the config. I'm just taking the config from the uh, uh, page here itself. So I'm not doing anything crazy either. Yeah, I'll look into it later then. Anything else, guys? As you can drop off if any one of you guys have any questions. Cool then. Thanks for joining, guys. See you next week. Bye.